How's it going? We're all falling apart here.
Yeah.
Technology, you know, you love it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So Doug is the CEO and founder of Qura, is that?
We pronounce it Qura.
Qura,
As when,
with a Q. Okay,
with a Q instead of a
cute.
C.
I missed that, but that's great. And so tell us about it, and you brought a little show and tell too, which we can take out in a minute. But tell us a little bit about what Qura does.
Yeah, so Qura operates at the intersection of med device and big data. So our premise is that healthcare, the biggest next innovation in healthcare is the combination of artificial intelligence and data analytics. So let me explain. Qura produces and makes wireless implantable pressure sensors to monitor chronic disease where a change in pressure indicates a change in health. And we operate in the eye, the heart, and the brain. In the heart, primarily we monitor congestive heart failure. And so those are the three areas of interest for us. The technology is unique, that it is extremely small, and it has taken about 8 or 9 years to actually develop the technology.
Interesting. And you actually, do you have that little device?
I have a device, but it's
pull it
so
out here.
small.
I know, you won't be able to see this.
Yeah, so let me give you an example.
So,
One of the components
anybody
is a
can see that?
sensor. And I told people a year ago that the sensor was so small, it was the size of a period at the end of a sentence. But in just the last 12 months, I can now put 10 sensors in that same space. And we've taken that theme of extreme miniaturization to the other 4 components that make up the system. So putting a sensor in the body is not unique. Others have done it. What is unique to Qura is the size. And I would tell you over time, this device will be implanted in a physician's office through a needle. And it'll be delivered into a variety of different body parts.
Yeah, you were saying the other chips, your competitors, are like big.
Yeah, so a typical device that measures pressure, say in the heart, might be 22 to 24 millimeters long. The antenna itself might be an additional 100 to 120 millimeters. Our whole device, including the sensor, the integrated circuit, the antenna, the battery, is maybe the size of a grain of rice. And that has never been done before.
So what'd you say, eye?
Eye, heart, and brain. In the eye, glaucoma.
Right.
A disease basically where pressure indicates loss of vision. In the heart, congestive heart failure, where the heart's not pumping enough blood, and so patients have cardiac-related issues. An early warning system that could alert a physician in advance of what I would call life-threatening events would be very valuable. And in the brain, traumatic brain injury, things along that line.
How do you get it in the brain?
So we envision attaching our device to existing devices. So shunts are used traditionally in the brain to move fluid from one part to another. Our device is so small, we envision just attaching it to a hydrocephalus shunt. And I would tell you the ability to do that will change that part of medicine overnight. And so the same thing, think of a cardiovascular stent. Attaching a sensor moves that technology from what I call passive to active. So think about what could be 1,000 different medical devices that now go from passive to active and produce clinical data. And that's really what Qura is about.
So without getting too technical, how does it actually work? I mean, what's
so
it measure? Yeah, I mean, is it
we
blood
measure
flow or-
3 things.
Yeah.
We measure pressure.
Yeah.
We measure temperature. We measure oxygen saturation.
Okay.
And there's other things we can measure. There are sensors that have been designed to do those. What's unique about what Qura has done is the integration of all of the components that make this work, and then taking those sensors to a more extreme miniaturized level. And so how does it work? We measure pressure. And like I say, others have done that. It's not unique. What's unique is the size that we've brought this down to.
And how does the signal get out?
So think about in the eye, you've got to get data out of the eye about 500 microns. But think about a sensor embedded deep in the chest. How do you get that data out? So most companies use an antenna, which makes sense. And the antenna could be, 120 to 140 millimeters long. Our antenna is different. It's less than 2 millimeters. So we solved the problem differently. We created a micro device that can transmit data out of the body. And right now, we can transmit between 1 meter and 3 meters. And so we have a little device, sort of like a hockey puck. It sits at the patient bedside. That little hockey puck charges the battery overnight, downloads all the data, sends it to the cloud for analysis. The alert system that we've developed is unique in that the physician programs the alert system for each patient. So think about getting a text or an email on your phone if data from Dave indicates perhaps an office visit may be warranted.
So how long do these last? I mean, do you wear them if you have a certain medical condition? Like glaucoma?
These are not wearables. These are implantables.
Yeah.
And they should last the life of a patient. So the heart of the technology is the rechargeable battery. We can recharge this 5,000 times, which would give you a life of the device somewhere between 10 and 20 years. And so should last for the life of a patient. In heart failure, unlikely that patient's going to live that long.
Yeah.
But in glaucoma, yes, they could have that disease for 10 or 20 years.
So I got to ask, I just wrote a book about robots and AI, which includes, some kind of machine-human interfaces and things. I mean, is this a step in that direction? Or, I mean, I know it's tiny, but, adding a machine sensor embedded
maybe
into
it's
humans.
a part of the evolution over time. The problem we were trying to solve is that physicians get 4 to 10 seconds of data a year. And from that 4 to 10 seconds, they maybe make as much as 12 months of decisions for medications or whatever. And we thought that's not enough data. And so the ability to take massive amounts of data and put it into a story so that the data becomes information, the information translates what I call wisdom to the physician. So you get better insight in terms of not just what patients to treat, but what patients are actually doing well that don't need follow-up. So the ability to stratify patients so that you can spend more time and attention with those that need it may make sense.
So we're not yet quite at the cyborg
We're not there
or
yet.
Borg level here.
But I would tell you, I could see a time in the future where an infant has sensors embedded at age 5. And that becomes their health monitoring system for the rest of their life.
Wow. Okay. So are there any safety or ethical issues with this?
I would tell you there's always safety issues in an implant. So one of the challenges for the company, we had to develop a unique biocompatible coating such that the body doesn't reject the device, such that inflammation doesn't affect it. Additionally, one of the big issues with sensors is what's called drift. Drift means the pressure I measure today may be different tomorrow. What happened? Generally, fluid can get inside these devices, and when that happens, the sensitivity to measuring pressure changes. So that unique coating we developed should eliminate that problem. And you only need to calibrate the device at day of surgery, and then it self-calibrates from there.
Okay. So what about where this is headed? I mean, you're starting in these 3 areas, but are there other
So I would tell you there are 10 to 12 places in the body where a change in pressure indicates a change in health. And so there's pressure-guided therapies. Generally, they are pharma in nature. Think of the ability to provide enough data for a physician so that the right medications produce the best possible outcome. I see that as one of the deliverables. But I think over time, it's going to take a while for the community to adopt these technologies. And most likely, they'll put these in the most severe patients first. And then I would see over time, probably 10 to 20 million people could have these implants.
And I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the other 2 gentlemen about keeping this data secure and private. I mean, this is starting to get pretty personal here when it's inside your body, right?
But you would expect when it comes to data, there are certain protocols that have to be adhered to. And the only person that really sees that data is your physician. It doesn't go out into an environment where others can access it. So at the individual patient level, it's only the physician that sees that.
I wonder, I mean, I'm just sort of imagining, because I know this isn't in humans yet, right?
No, we're in preclinical.
Yeah. And so how are you testing it in animals?
So we've been in animals. We did a study in the rabbit. We used the rabbit because they're highly inflammatory, and it gave us good insight in terms of the ability to actually measure the pressure inside the rabbit, and then also gave us good insight in terms of the stability of the biocompatible coating. We did that. I'll tell you what was unique about this. We put the device in the rabbit for 12 weeks. We decided we would take them out. And we took them out and we sent them back to the lab where we made these. And for the last 9 months, they're still collecting data in a Petri dish where we change the pressure from time to time. And I believe we've collected 40 to 50,000 data points now that they've been explanted. I think the takeaway from this is the device is so robust it could withstand explantation and then turn back on again.
So I gotta admit, as a writer, my imagination is working here. I already mentioned cyborgs and borgs, but could I be in a meeting with you and I have a colleague next to me pretending to check their emails, but they're really checking to see if you're getting nervous or
I would say that
measuring that pressure in that way?
So first of all, you can check the data as easily as checking the weather on your phone.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, you can do that. So I don't know, unless you tell somebody, my blood pressure is this, my oxygen saturation is this, and it looks like in the next 24 hours, I should probably go see the doctor. I'm not suggesting
Job interview, I don't know. I mean, okay, this person's like, their pressure is like through the ceiling.
But I do think that data and analytics are the next evolution in healthcare. And think of data and analytics as the next leg of the stool. You have drugs, devices, and surgery. And I think what Qura is suggesting, that data and analytics combined with artificial intelligence becomes the next treatment regimen for patients. And that's how you revolutionize the treatment of chronic disease.
So we're almost out of time, but when is this in humans, do you think?
I would say 12 to 18 months, first human.
Okay, and is this an FDA process?
This is FDA. Most likely will be a PMA, which will be a study with 300 to 600 subjects.
Fantastic. Well, Doug, really appreciate it. I'm not sure I want to try this yet. Maybe, we'll see how it does in other animals, but anyway, it sounds very exciting, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And it's Doug Adams.